Okay, good evening. Let's make a start. Start from the beginning. The Kabbalah of Genesis. The next few weeks, we're going to be looking at the Torah's description of the very beginning of creation and the Kabbalah's interpretation of how that story is relevant to us and meaningful to us. Sometimes when people read the book of Genesis and the story of creation, the heavens and the earth, the animals and the plants, and Adam and Eve, sometimes people get stuck on the scientific and historical element. Like, how does this fit in with the dinosaurs and evolution and the age of the universe and various other similar questions that seem to be contradictory between the biblical account of the beginning of humankind and the earth and the way science has understood it in our times. And even though that is a fascinating discussion and study and a worthy one of itself, and there are wonderful books and lectures on that topic, ways to reconcile the biblical account with scientific descriptions, the ways to understand science differently so it can fit into the biblical account. And that itself is a valid pursuit. But I think that that can sometimes cloud the main purpose and intention that God had in giving us the Torah. And that is that the Torah, the word Torah means instruction. Instruction means it's giving you a way, a path, uh, a purpose, and an inspiration. And so while you can analyze the Torah from a scientific perspective, but the real way to study Torah is to look at it from a personal perspective. What is this saying to me? How is this relevant to me? How does it affect my life? What is it telling me about myself and about my mission in this world? That is really the essence of what Torah is. And so any part of Torah we study, it has to be through that lens. How is this talking to me? And that idea is no place truer than in the creation of the universe and particularly the creation of the human being. If God is telling us about the creation, it's not to tell us a historical fact or an interesting story. It's telling us about us. This is our story. We are the human being. We are Adam and Eve. And when we learn and study and analyze the story, we should be extracting from the story, what is this telling me about myself? And the questions that we should be asking is, how does an understanding of this story and its details, how does it give me an insight into the very makings and the inner workings of the human being? Because this is God's version of what the human being is. That is what has been communicated in the Torah. When studying Torah, so you can read its literal and simple level, and that is valid in and of itself. But to get the real depth, you need to scrape beneath the surface and look in the mystical side. And that's what the Kabbalah does for us. It takes the stories of the Torah. It doesn't negate or contradict the literal translation of it, but it gives us another deeper metaphorical, symbolic, and spiritual version of it that can be applied much broader than just the narrow understanding of the verse. And so during the course of this course, we're going to look at some of the key verses, probably just one verse each week, actually. One verse, one line from the Torah that describes something about the beginnings of the human being and extrapolate its mystical meaning, its relevance to us. And for the purposes of this discussion, we're going to focus specifically on the creation of Adam and Eve, of man and woman, the very first human beings, because that's us, that's who we are. And that, in a way, is the center point of the creation story. If you have a look at the book of Genesis from the very beginning, it talks about creation. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And it goes through the 6 days of creation. And during those 6 days, God creating everything in our physical universe, everything that we are familiar with, the planets, the earth and the seas, the plants, the animals. And on the 6th day, at the end of the 6th day, which was Friday, the biblical week starts on Sunday. The 6th day is Friday. The 7th day is, of course, Shabbos. So on Friday, God creates the human being. And that creation is introduced in quite dramatic and a little bit surprising words. The course of creation is that God created through speech. He said, let there be, and there was. The most famous one is let there be light, and there was light. People often say that after a blackout or when you switch the light on. Let there be light, and there was light. A biblical phrase. God said, let there be light, and there was light. Who was he talking to when he said, let there be light, and there was light? Well, it wasn't really talking to anyone. He was talking existence into existence. By saying, let there be light, those divine words became light. He wasn't instructing someone to make light. He wasn't speaking to his staff or his workers and saying, make light. By saying, let there be light, light was. The very saying of it. When God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, those words became the energy of vegetation, and plants and grass and trees grow to this very day from the word of God that says, let there sprout forth vegetation. So God wasn't talking to people. He wasn't commanding to somebody or to some other being to create. He was saying, let it happen. And it happened. Unlike a human being, where we can talk till we're blue in the face and nothing happens unless you do something, saying is not going to do anything. You have to actually follow up with action. With God, his saying is an action. Saying it made it happen. That is true of all the creation. But then when it comes to the human being, the wording is a bit different. It switches the way God says it. And you have it on your page number 1, from the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26, where it says, and God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. And then he went and did it. He created it. So unlike all of other creations where it says, he let there be and it was, here God doesn't say let there be, he says let us make man in our image and in our likeness. In Hebrew, Naseh Adam. Naseh, let us make man, in the first person plural. Let us make man. Who's he talking to? Who's us? Who's the plural that's making man? This is a little surprising. In fact, it's a bit of a shock, because us in plural is almost is heretical. There's more than one creator. God is creating the world, and God is creating the human being. Where does the plural come out? Come here. Any more sheets, or we run out? Um, so um, so this question is not answered by the Torah itself. The Torah just goes on. Let us make man in our image and our likeness, in the plural. If you look in the next verse, it said, and God created in the singular man. So it's very clear that only God created man. But first he said, let us make man, Naseh Adam, in the plural. This little grammatical discrepancy is not little. It's a big deal. Like everything in the Torah, there's nothing accidental, there's nothing incidental. It must mean something. And to say, for God to speak in the plural seems quite surprising. Now, the easiest way to get out of this is to say God is speaking in the royal plural, the royal we. You know, like royalty, kings and queens sometimes say we for themselves. It's just I, but they say we. You know, like in certain languages as well, you can do the plural to be an honorable type of way of speaking, like vous in French rather than tu. So you could say, okay, let us make man is just me. Is just me, but there's no one else. But it's the royal we. And okay, that's fair enough. You could say it that way. But it seems strange to put it in that way just here at this particular point, at this particular moment, uh, and straight after going back to the singular. It seems to be more significant than that, especially since we're talking about the creation of the pinnacle of creation, which is the human being. That everything else was created, like the stage was set, and now let us make man. But who's the us? Who is that plural? So our first port of call always to understand any verse in the Torah is Rashi. Rashi is Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, lived in the 1100s in France, and he has a running commentary on the entire Torah, all of Tanakh, the whole Hebrew Bible, also on the whole Talmud. he is our best friend in studying Torah because he always gives us the straightforward and simple explanation. But often, if not always, he has deeper meanings hidden beneath what he says. So Rashi says, the humility of the Holy One, blessed be he, the rabbis learn from here. Because man is the likeness of the angels, and they might envy him. Therefore, he took counsel with them. That God, of course, was creating the human being. He was creating himself on his own. He didn't need any help. No one else was creating with God. However, because he was creating the human being now, not just animals and plants, he's creating a human being. The human being is a being who rivals the angels. Like the angels have intelligence, have awareness, have a spiritual connection. They are higher beings than any other being that has been created till now. And so, therefore, because he's introducing this creation out of humility, out of courtesy, he consults the angels. How about we make man? Like, are you on board with me making the human being? Is that okay with you? Not that he needs their permission. He's God. But I'm going to introduce a being that is going to surpass you. Human beings are actually higher than angels, even though angels are very pure and very perfect, but they don't have free choice. They don't have the ability to reach the heights that a human being does. We, of course, can go lower than angels, but we can also go higher than angels. We fulfill the purpose that God had in creation, which angels don't. So it is going to be some competition to the angels that the human being has been introduced. So in God's humility and in his sense of courtesy to the angels, he asks them almost permission. He consults with them.
So, beginning of Genesis, before the apple is eaten and snack, we have bad feelings of jealousy. Why? It just surprises me or upsets me.
Yep. So it's an interesting question, and really, the long before the eating from the forbidden fruit, there was already the possibility of negativity. In fact, negativity already happened by God contracting His light to create the universe, which we've spoken on other occasions. The tzimtzum, the contraction of God's light, is already a negativity, taking away God's light, and so ultimately, God brought that into the world as a necessity and a part of creation. So here with a human being, Rashi is giving us like a moralistic view of this, and saying God is teaching us a lesson, and that is that you should consult even those who are maybe inferior to you. They're not as strong and powerful and as smart as you, but consult them when doing something, especially if it's going to affect them. You've got to make a family decision, but it's going to affect the entire family. So you need to consult. You may be the head of the family, consult others who are not the head in a business that you're running. But if you're going to do things that will possibly cause rifts or issues or problems, don't just do it from top bottom. Include people in the decision-making process, and then they will feel a part of it. They will be included. It's a moral lesson. That's how Rashi sees it on a very simplistic level. And so therefore, of course, God is the only creator. Nobody else created. Nobody helped him. He didn't need anybody else. But he said, I guess Rashi would translate this, let us make man, as shall we make man? It would be the exact same word in Hebrew, na'aseh. Could be translated as shall we make man? Like, are you on board with this? He asked the angels.
Were the angels already created?
They were created already on the second day of creation. Light was on the first day. But they weren't consulted about those things. They weren't consulted about anything else because it didn't affect them. They weren't no competition.
What plane were they consulted? Were they created in? Not the bottom level.
Which world? Well, there are angels in the world of Bria and Yetzirah. Asiya also, yeah. So this is how Rashi presents it. Now, in Rashi's source is the Midrash. And the Midrash, which is a part of the oral Talmudic tradition that embellishes, explains, and adds to the Torah's text, The Midrash actually gives several different angles as to this plural of let us make man. One of them is exactly what Rashi says, so he's pretty much paraphrasing. There's another one that explains a little bit more what it means that God consulted the angels about creating man. Number 3 is Midrash Rabbah, where it says the following. When the Holy One, blessed be He, came to create Adam, the first man, and the ministering angels divided into various factions and various groups. So in this consultation, there were several opinions. And this is before Jews are around. Some of them were saying, let him not be created. And some of them were saying, let him be created. So there were different opinions as to whether man should be created. That is what is written in the book of Psalms. Kindness and truth met, righteousness and peace touched. That is a description of this meeting. Why? Kindness, meaning the angel of kindness, the angel that represents kindness, said, let him be created as he performs acts of kindness. Man will be kind. Yes, let's create him. Truth said, let him not be created as he's full of lies. Righteousness said, let him be created as he performs acts of righteousness. Peace said, let him not be created as he's full of discord, disharmony. So what did the Holy One, blessed be He, do? He took truth and cast it down to earth, down to the ground. Meaning he dismissed truth from the meeting, cast him down. That is what is written in the book of Daniel. You cast truth earthward. Like you chucked him down. So concludes the midrash in this story. While the ministering angels were busy deliberating with one another and engaging with one another, the Holy One, blessed be He, created him. He created man. And He said to them, why are you deliberating? Man has already been created. And this is actually a play on the words. The words, let us make man, Naseh Adam, could actually be retranslated as Adam has been made. The word Naseh it could be the first person plural active verb, let us make man, or it could be the third person singular passive verb, Naseh, man has been made. In Hebrew, the same word could be two different conjugations of the verb. So Naseh Adam means man was made already. It's happened already. He was consulting the angels in their debate about whether he should or shouldn't be created. In the meantime, he was made already. Okay, so this midrash, like often the midrash, is a bit perplexing, a bit of a riddle here. So we've got a debate between the angels whether or not man should be created. Kindness said, yeah, he's going to be kind. Truth said, no, he's going to be a liar. Righteousness says, yeah, he's going to do righteous acts. Peace said, no, he's going to be fighting all the time. Let's not do it. So what does God do? He kicks truth out and creates, and goes and creates. And while they're still debating, is created already. So it's interesting. The sages have analyzed this midrash in also many different angles of what these represent and why these various arguments. You would notice that the debate, well, there were 2 for and 2 against. But God got rid of only one of the against, and then went along and did it. And you could say, well, now you got the majority, but that doesn't seem that would be enough. You got rid of truth. What about peace? Peace is still got a claim. So how is it enough to kick truth out of the meeting, but peace is left? So one of the great Hasidic masters, the Menachem Mendel of Kotsk, he said a very witty explanation. He said that once truth is out of the way, so then peace can agree. Because making peace only happens when you put truth aside. So he didn't have to get rid of peace. Once truth is out the room, then we can make peace. You could look at this in a cynical way or in a positive way. In a cynical way, it's that like peace is a lie. Like it's not an honest thing. It's not a true thing. You're not being honest. If you're being honest and fully yourself, so then there's not going to be peace. But maybe that's a positive thing. That this is how you have to make peace. The way to make peace is sometimes to put truth aside. If you're a warrior for truth, Well, there's going to be clashes because we're in a world of falsehood, and there are different truths sometimes and contradictory truths, and everyone's got a good argument and got a good point. As the Alter Rebbe Rabbi Shneur Zalman said that it's the arguments for the sake of heaven that is what is preventing Mashiach to come. Arguments that are honest arguments, people who are fighting and they're doing it sincerely. That's what's going to prevent Mashiach coming, because people you're sincere. And when you're sincere, you got to fight. You got to argue. I know that you're wrong. I have to fight against you, and you know I'm wrong as well. And with your full sincerity, you have to fight against me, and so we can't agree. The only way to agree is to put truth aside. Don't try to be right. Just try to be peaceful. And sometimes that's the only way. Recently, somebody called me before Rosh Hashanah, and they said that we're having the family over for Rosh Hashanah. I'm in a fight with my brother-in-law. He's treated me horribly, and he listed all the terrible things that he had done. And should I be inviting him to Rosh Hashanah? How can I invite someone to Rosh Hashanah who has done this to me? I've asked, tried to make peace, and they've refused. They take no responsibility for anything. I should invite them to my house for Rosh Hashanah. On principle, they said, on principle, I don't want to have this person in my house. It's false and it's wrong and it's going against my values. I said, you're right, and you have every right to say that, and you're justified in what you're saying based on what I'm hearing. However, sometimes it's better to have a false peace than an honest fight. That's what this midrash is saying. Sometimes you have to kick truth out the door and have peace. Peace is only disagreeing when truth is there. As soon as truth is out, then you can make peace. So sometimes you have to do that. So sometimes that's the right thing to do. It goes against our grain. It's against my principles. How can I do that? If you want peace, you have to. I don't want to apply that to world events and Middle East peace and like truth and like that. That gets too complicated. So let's leave that out for now. But certainly in our interpersonal relationships, there's a wisdom there. There's a very deep wisdom there. But what seems strange is that so God convenes this meeting of the angels because he's humble and considerate of their feelings. But then in the midst of their arguing, he says, okay, man is made. It's done. It seems almost a little dishonest, like it seems almost like he's fooling them. Like, yeah, you have your discussion, and then behind, their back, he's created man. But in the meantime, man has already been created. What's going on there? So all of these ideas, particularly these midrashic ideas that are just thrown out at us, they're there to invite us to go deeper. We need to work out what's going on here. What is the depth of this? So I discovered a fascinating mystical analysis of this midrash and this discussion, which will shed light on the whole "let us make man" idea from Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen was a fascinating Hasidic master from the early 1800s in Lublin in Poland. He was a wild genius from a very young age. They say he made a blessing on his mother's milk. When he was nursing his mother's milk, he already made a bracha on the milk. He was an exceptional young lad, and he was a genius in Torah knowledge. He wrote dozens and dozens of books. Many of them we do still have, that span the entire gamut of Jewish wisdom. And this book is called Risisei Laila. Risisei Laila means fragments of the night. It's believed that these are teachings that he came to in his sleep. There's a section of the book that is actual dreams. He writes down his dreams, and his dreams are not your or my dreams. They were all Torah ideas and answering deep questions that he had, things from the Torah and the Talmud. And so these were the fragments of the night, the things that came to him. So let's attempt to understand and appreciate some profound words on this midrash that we just read. The angels here, when we talk about the angels debating about whether man should be created, the angels represent the very spiritual forces that the Blessed One established in creation. right? This is actually a nice little definition of an angel. What is an angel? An angel is not a Tinkerbell. It's not some magical being with wings floating around. An angel is a force, is an energy, various energies that God created in the universe. They're not independent beings. They don't have free choice. They're forces that God created in the world. All these forces are included within man, who was made in the image of God, meaning he embodies within himself all these powers. The number of angels corresponds to the number of these forces. So all the various angelic forces that there are in the world, we have them in us. Because what are these angelic forces? They're divine powers, divine energies that are expressed by God. We are created in God's image, which means that all of those forces we have within ourselves, every angelic force we have within ourselves. In the example that we just read in the Midrash, it spoke about kindness, righteousness, truth, and peace. They are angelic forces. There is a force in the universe called kindness, the force of kindness, of goodness. There's righteousness, being upright, doing the right thing. There is the force of peace in the world, making peace, harmony. And there is a force of truth. There's a concept of truth. These are also angelic forces. If you think about it, these are abstract ideas. Truth. How do you know there's something called truth? Maybe there's nothing called truth. Maybe it's just a word that we made up or what? No, there's an angelic force called truth, being true. There is such a force. And you see it because even a child recognizes truth. They know when they're lying and they're not telling the truth. They know what's fair and what's not fair. There's a sense of righteousness, kindness. These things are actual forces in the world. But not just in the world, in the human being as well. We have within us these forces of kindness, righteousness, truth, peace, and many other forces that are each one represented by a different angel. So if that is true, if the human being has all these forces within us, within our personality, so they're debating. What does it mean that these forces were debating about the creation of man? Their debating refers to the process by which each force reveals and clarifies its nature, how it is expressed within man, whether it tends toward good and so forth. And through this very process of clarification, man was already formed. The debate that was going on in this midrash, what is it? What is a debate? If we stage a debate, what does it mean? It means we have various sides with various opinions. Each one has to state, well, what do you think? What's your opinion? State what you say. Each one is stating who they are, what they think, what their opinion is, what their feelings are, their argument, stating their case. So this is what this debate was each of these forces has to present its case. Say, so what are you? Your kindness. What does kindness say? Kindness says it's good to be kind. People will be kind. It's a good thing. And what does truth say? Well, truth means you got to be honest, and it's not good to be dishonest. And so you're stating your case. Each one is stating its case. So he says what God was doing here was not in the simplistic idea of like having an open forum with the angels to each one express their opinion, and then God's going to do what he wants anyway. It's that God wanted, as a part of the creation of the human being, God wanted to invite all of these forces to present yourself, express yourself, and be a part of the process of creating man. Kindness, step up, state who you are. By doing that, in the process of creating man, you are contributing to man kindness, the force of kindness. Peace, come and state you are giving the energy of peace to the human being. Truth, righteousness, each one, by stating it, is contributing to the process of creating man. So this was not just a conference of consultation. This was God inviting all of creation, all the energies of creation, to participate in the creation of the human being, because man has within all of it. We'll see why man has to have all of it a bit soon. So Rabbi Tzadok here has transformed our understanding of this consultation, this debate, as it were. This was the creative process, and so therefore, by them doing it, man was already formed. You've done it. Okay, now we've got man, because all the angels, not just these four mentioned, all the angels contributed, participated. All the forces of the universe said their thing. Okay, now we've got all that energy. That's what man is. Man is the collective energy of all of creation. He continues, for God's making of man occurs through his contemplation of all these forces. This being the meaning of his creative speech. For the world was created by divine utterance. As it says, the speech of the Holy One, blessed be he, is an act. As we said at the beginning, God created through speech, through speaking. And so this conversation with the angels was actually a creative energy. It was making man. It was making man. So Nase Adam, let us make man, is, of course, God is the creator, but I'm bringing all of you angels, all the angelic forces, you're going to be a part of the creation of man. God is creating man, but you're contributing your energy, which God created, into man. It's going to all be a part of it. As it says that in the Talmud, that the speech of the Holy One is an act. When God says it is. So this conversation is creating over the back. Moreover, God's speech itself constitutes the world of the angels. As our sages explained in another midrash on the verse, and the Lord placed a word in Bilam's mouth, that word refers to an angel. So he says mystically, the speech of God is itself an angelic force. God's word is a force of energy of creation, which is expressed like an angel. Here he quotes in the story of Bilam, the evil prophet who tried to curse the Jewish people but ended up blessing them. That God placed the word in Bilam's mouth, which the Midrash says was an angel speaking through Bilam, blessing the Jewish people. So the word of God is an angel, is an angelic force. So thus, as these angelic forces examine and express their qualities, kindness, peace, etc., which correspond to the particular powers within man, the human being was thereby brought into existence in the world of Asiya, action, in the physical world, encompassing within himself all these divine forces. This being Adam Arishan, the first man who included within him all his future descendants. So the discussion of the angels was not just to create the first man, Adam, but it was to create us as well. Because Adam was the soul that included all souls of all generations. We were a part of that. We were there. Our souls were there as well. In the mystical writings, it says that Adam was an entire body. Each one of us belonged to a different part of Adam's body. Some of us are fingers, some of us toes, some of us might be hair or brains or eyebrows or any part. We connect to some part of Adam's collective soul. And so we all received every single layer and level of all those angelic forces, and that is our personality. So this brings up a lot of fascinating thoughts and ideas. We, as a human being, we include all of creation and have the ability to elevate all of creation. God set the scene on the 6 days of creation, the entire universe, and then created us as the ones who elevate and bring meaning and purpose to the entire world, as we'll see in the next section. So we have all the powers of the universe, all the angelic powers are in us, and that was this conference at creation, and that's God saying, "Let us make man," but also Nase, man's made. It's happened by the angels contributing to that discussion. Man has been made. Interestingly, we should note that the Medrash we saw earlier, there was a debate. Some said man should be made, some said man should not be made. Amongst the angelic forces, there were some voices of objection that man should not be made. And those forces are also a part of our being. So the Kabbalists say that there's an angelic voice that said we shouldn't be, and that is also part of our persona. We also have a voice that negates ourselves, that we constantly have to overcome. There were the angels who were pro, and there were angels who were against, and those voices are a part of ourself as well. And so we're constantly having to conquer. There's the inner voice that is encouraging and is uplifting, and then we have another voice that is pulling us down and negating our existence and questioning whether we really do exist, and am I real, and is my life having any meaning, and do I really belong here? That is another voice in us that we have to constantly overcome. The proof we have to overcome it is that God created us in spite of those voices. He gave us existence, even though there were voices objecting to our creation. And so therefore our mission is to assert our existence and to overcome the self-doubt that we have, which comes from those angelic forces that say, you don't really belong. Any questions? Anyone want to make any comments so far? Any thoughts?
That's basically the balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was something last week. So we've got our ego, and that's look at me, look how wonderful I am. And then the ego of look at all my problems and I can't exist. And if we think of ourselves, this is a tiny dot, a little soul in the massiveness of the universe. Then that's what we have to do. That we have to not think of all our negativity because we've got all that abundance in us.
Correct. So yeah, one of the great mystics, Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Persischa, said that I have in my pocket, each of my pockets, I have two pieces of paper. In one piece of paper, it says that I am dust and ashes. I'm nothing. In the other one, it says the world was created for me. And both of them are true. The I'm dust and ashes, I'm nothing. I'm a speck of nothingness in the scheme of the universe. But God created the world for me. And the Talmud says this, that every person has to say that the entire world was created for me, meaning I have a unique mission and a purpose that nobody else can fulfill. So I'm absolute nothing and I'm absolutely everything at the same time. And you cannot take one without the other. You can't just walk around being a nothing and a nobody, because then you'll do nothing and be a nobody. But you also can't walk around thinking you're the center of the universe, because then you're just arrogant and self-centered. But if you have both, then you're a person. That's what a person is. There's an angel that says you shouldn't exist, and an angel that you should exist, and we have to have both. So absolute, utter humility to the point where I'm a nothing, and absolute confidence that I've been given a divine mission that's unique, and there's nobody else like me. Not easy. It's actually easier to just choose one or the other. To put yourself down as a nobody, because then I've got no responsibility. I've got no expectations. You can't expect me to do anything. I'm a piece of dirt. That's much easier. Or to say I'm the center of the universe, and therefore all that matters is what I want, and what and to be completely self-absorbed. They're much easier extremes. Our path is to have both simultaneously, and to weave ourselves through both. Not an easy path, but a real path. Okay. Let's go a bit further. Number 5 is the Meshileach. Meshileach is another Polish Hasidic master. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef Leiner was his name. From Izbitz was the town in Poland that he was from. He actually was a teacher of Rabbi Tzadok, the one we saw previously. And he has a beautiful commentary on the Torah. And he brings up the following idea. In the beginning, the Blessed One created all the creatures. Afterwards, when the creatures themselves perceived their deficiency, that they lacked a being who could connect their vitality to the Blessed One, they longed for man to be created. The world itself longed for man to be created because they sensed that they were deficient, they were lacking something. There was something that they were missing that they couldn't fulfill on their own, and that was to connect their energy, their vitality, their soul to their source, to God. This is something I discussed on Shabbos, that the Maimonides points out that every species in the world has a purpose. And the scientists of his time, Maimonides lived 1,000 years ago, they already identified how every species has some contribution to make in the grand scheme of creation, in the ecosystem. Everything contributes, is either feeds another being, or is fed by another being, and each one has its place in such a way that if any species was removed from that system, the whole system would collapse. Everything needs everything else. And the only exception to that, there's only one species that did not fit into the ecosystem, was not necessary, was not needed, didn't have any visible purpose that contributed to that entire system. And that one species, if it was removed, would not affect the world. The world would go on fine without them, is the human being. That the human being is not needed as a part of that ecosystem. So then what are we there for? What is that purpose? So this is what the Ishbitzer says, and Maimonides says the same thing, that there's one element that we contribute that nothing else contributes, and that is giving meaning to the entire system. Yes, there's an ecosystem that would survive fantastically without us, but what for? Like for no purpose. There's no meaning in it. Nature itself is a beautiful, complex system that interacts and interlocks in an amazing way. But what for? What does it do? It's only the human being that can give meaning to that entire system by bringing goodness, by bringing holiness and purpose into the universe. The Meshiloach here says this is something that the universe itself sensed on some deep spiritual level, that the universe stood before human beings were created, said, okay, we're great, we've got this system, but why? What are we here for? We can't transcend, we can't grow, we can't move to anything higher. We don't have a purpose and a meaning. And so it's almost like the world called out for a leader. Give us a leader. Give us a being that will connect us, that will give us purpose. They long for man to be created. So he explains how this works. For it is through man that all things of this world are bound to God. Since man elevates everything, as is known, the inanimate gives its energy to the vegetative, excuse me, to the animal to the human. And when man with his own strength devotes himself in service to the Blessed One, he then elevates all the powers he has absorbed from this world, even the power of the inanimate. Meaning, the inanimate world is the world of the mineral, the dirt of the ground. Water is the inanimate world. In Hebrew, it's called the domem, the silent world. It's silent, doesn't speak, just sits there like a rock or water. There's the vegetative world, plants that in Hebrew called somer, that which grows, which develops. Then there's the animal kingdom, which is called chai. They're full living beings. They have life, movement, energy. And then there's the human being, which is called the medaber, the speaking being, with one who can communicate, can have ideas, can put things into words. So these four levels of life, each one feeds the other, that the plants live off the minerals of the earth, and the animals live off the plants, and we live off all three. We survive off all three, which is interesting because we are supposed to be the pinnacle of creation, the highest level of creation. The human being is higher than minerals, plants, and animals. And yet, our survival, we need them. And they don't need us. We need to eat plants, animals, and minerals to survive, to live. We can't live without them. Whereas they look after each other, but they don't need us. They don't eat us. Since when does a higher being rely on a lower being for its sustenance? It doesn't make logical sense. It doesn't fit. You don't rely on somebody who has less than you to support you. These beings have less liveliness, a lower level of soul than we do. And yet, by us eating them, we're given life. So the mystics explain this is elaborate a lot in the writings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman, the Alter Rebbe, that the energy that they have comes from a higher place than us. That the lower something is in this world, the higher its spiritual source. The lower the life force, the higher its source. The inanimate, the rocks and the water are the lowest as far as their life expression, but that's because they come from the higher source. The higher something is, the lower it falls in this world. The vegetative world is higher than that because it comes from a lower source. The animal world is higher than that because it comes from even lower, and the human being comes from even lower than that. It's talking about our body, not our soul. Our body, the physical body of the human being, is the lowest of all creations. That's why, if you look carefully at the creation story, God created everything through his speech, except for the human being. The human being was created through an action. God formed his body out of the dust and then breathed his soul into him. So obviously this is all metaphoric. It's called anthropomorphism. We're using human terms for God. God speaking, breathing, making. But it's to illustrate to us what's going on. Speaking is a deep form of expression. I'm expressing my inner self through speaking. An action, doing, is a more external act. I'm not giving you my words or my wisdom. I'm making something. I'm shaping something. It's not coming from as deep a place as my words. So the act of making God, the human body was a physical act as opposed to speaking. God spoke the animals into existence. He spoke the plants and water into existence, but he made the human body. So the human body is lower than plants, animals, and minerals. It's an action as opposed to speech of God. But the human soul is the breath of God. Breath comes from a place deeper than speech. When you speak, you're also breathing, but you're breathing from an external part of the mouth. When you exhale, it comes from your inner self. The soul of man was breathed into him because it came from a deeper part of the divine. So while animals, both body and soul of the animal was spoken into existence, and plants and minerals, but the soul of man was breathed, the body of man was made. So that means our body is the lowest reality in this world, and our soul is the highest, which means that we are able to elevate the lowest and bring it to the highest. Our body is reliant on plants, animals, and minerals for our existence. We need to consume them in order to survive. But then, once we have done so, we have the ability to use our soul to live a meaningful and purposeful, elevated life. And that elevates the entire world, because a plant, animal, or mineral cannot live a divine life. They just fulfill their instinctive mission. They do what they were programmed to do, but they can't do an act of goodness, whereas we can. We have a soul that is divine, but our body is reliant on them for its life. So we have this reciprocal relationship with the other life forms, in that we need them for our survival, but they need us for meaning and purpose, and we elevate them through our good deeds. So as we sit here and have this meaningful discussion, we are all energized by the food that we have eaten and the drinks that we have drunk. We couldn't be sitting here and thinking and functioning without that. And so, and what we're doing is having a meaningful discussion, which hopefully will lead to a more meaningful, purposeful life. And so when you go out and you do a mitzvah and do a good deed and do something meaningful with the energy that you have gained from the dinner and the lunch and the breakfast that you ate, and the air that you breathe, and the ground that you're standing on, and the clothes that you're wearing, all of these things are accessories that enable you to do a meaningful purpose. You elevate all of that. All of the food you ate, all of the clothes you're wearing, all of the generations of plants, animals, and minerals that came to create the food that you're eating now, they're all given purpose and meaning through a good deed, a mitzvah, and a holy act that you do, which they couldn't have done on their own. So this, the Meshaleach is saying, is what the world was crying out for before man was there. Like, we need meaning. We need to be given purpose. We can't do this on our own. We don't have it. They also have a soul. They also have some consciousness and awareness in some spiritual sense, but they can't do anything about it. So the world is screaming out to us to elevate it, to use it purposefully and meaningfully. Of course, we have free choice. We could just be a body and ignore our soul. We could be a consumer of the world that eats it up and then doesn't do anything meaningful with that energy, but continues to just be a selfish being. And then we are degrading those life forms. The plant, the animal, and the mineral never did anything wrong or immoral. We can. We could eat it and do something immoral. That degrades it and that makes it even lower than where it was before. That's our free choice.
That's not good.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it can go either way. That's the nature of the world. It can be brought upwards through our actions, or it can be degraded and be worse than it was before. It never did anything wrong. That's our free choice. And only we have free choice. So, second last paragraph there of the Meshileach. When the creatures realized what they were lacking, when the world realized and sensed that, okay, we're complete, but we're incomplete. We're created, we're a nice system, but we don't have meaning. There's no higher purpose. They themselves aroused a stirring from below, what's called in Kabbalah, itarutil ditatata, an awakening from below for the creation of man. Thus, and God said, let us make man, means that the Blessed One said to all of creation that they should each give of their own power and join together in the formation of man, so that man would possess a share in each of them. In other words, the universe was saying we need meaning. So God said back to the universe, okay, so you need to all contribute your energies to man. Because that way you will have a direct connection to man's soul. And when man consumes you and then lives a meaningful life, it will elevate you. It'll bring you along. You'll be elevated. In this way, he concludes, whenever man would need something, all of creation would stand ready to assist him. For in his downfall, they too would suffer, as in the generation of the flood, and in his righteousness, they too would benefit. Fascinating. What is he saying here? He brings up the flood. It's this week's Torah parasha, the parasha of the week. What was the flood? The flood was that 10 generations after Adam had been created, humankind had become corrupted. We're living an immoral life. And so God said, I'm going to destroy the world. It's not fulfilling the purpose of bringing goodness into the world. The only exception was one family, Noah and his family. They were the only righteous people. They were good. They were doing good. The rest of the world was evil. So therefore God says, I'm going to destroy the world. But he's not just destroying humankind. He destroyed all the plants and animals, and even the ground was dug up and destroyed by the flood. Why did they also die? Like, why did the animals die? Why did the plants get destroyed? Why did the earth get destroyed? Man was corrupt, but why the rest of the universe? And we know that Noah, not only he survived, but also a cross section of the animal kingdom and also plants were taken onto the ark and saved. Which plants, which animals, and how did he get them all? Just a very practical question. How did Noah gather the giraffes and the lions and the rhinoceroses to the ark and bring them on, and like on a practical level, how did this happen? You could just say it was a miracle, but if you're going to make miracles, you don't need an ark. He just magically they can all survive. He had to bring them. He had to feed them. He had to look after them. How did he get them? How did they come to him? And which animals? How did you choose? Yeah, we'll take you, not you. Like how was it chosen? Which animal went on and which didn't? Just a practical question. So the Kabbalists explain that because the human being is responsible for elevating the world and bringing purpose to the world, each one of us, our soul, has a cross-section of creation that is particularly connected to our soul. There are animals, plants, and minerals in the universe that are ours. They're our little section of the world that we elevate, either directly through consuming them and utilizing them, or in some indirect way that this animal gives birth to another animal, which somehow ends up in our orbit and we elevate. But there's a part of creation that we are personally responsible for and connected to. And that's true of every single person. How is that reflected? That the particular meal that you are served is meant for you. That food was meant for you because that's the part of the world that is yours to elevate. The reason why it ended up on your plate was because this is connected to your soul. And if it gets mixed up and you get somebody else's meal, that's because no, that's what you were supposed to eat, not them. This is your part of the world. And so when you reach out for an apple and that one falls on the floor and rolls away and gets ruined, and so you need a different apple, it's because that wasn't the one you need to elevate. This is the one you need to elevate. This is your apple. And particular for you. And if the apple gets cut up into quarters, that quarter was yours and that quarter was theirs. That's how it's supposed to be. And how did it end up in your cart? You thought that the Coles delivery brought the wrong bag to you, and then when you called them and said, "I didn't order this," they said, "Okay, it's all right, you can keep it." You thought that was a mistake. No, that's not a mistake. It's because that had to come to you, assuming it's kosher, of course. That this was supposed to come to you. That particular delivery wasn't a mistake. That's what belongs to you. And when it spills, it wasn't for you. And when they got the order wrong, and I can't believe it, they got it wrong again, and then wait, that wasn't for you. That you weren't supposed to elevate that one. That's not your part of creation. Somebody else needed that. So it's like a divine magnetism that God created, that the particular part of creation that you need to elevate will be drawn to you. It will come to you. You don't even need to chase it. You go about your business and it'll come to you. In the case of the flood, that's what happened with Noah. That Noah and his family were righteous people. So therefore there was a section of creation. There were animals that belonged to Noah. They came to the ark on their own accord. That's what the Midrash records. That they just marched over to the ark because they belonged to Noah, whereas the rest of creation didn't. They belonged to the corrupt generation, and so therefore they were destroyed. Now, what did they do wrong? Did the animals do wrong? Well, according to the Talmudic tradition, yeah, they did. The animals of the time were also immoral. They mixed with not their own species. The plants, it says, would grow. An apple tree would grow oranges. What? Now, of course, the animals don't have free choice, and certainly a plant doesn't. The corruption of the human beings, it permeated creation. It polluted the entire creation. And so they were also debased. That's what it sounds like. So that had to be uprooted from its core. It was all evil. Some have suggested the dinosaurs were part of that. Some corrupted version of animal kind. And so they were destroyed at this time. But whatever it may be, the concept is that the story of the flood was humans becoming corrupt, because only humans can choose to be corrupt. And so, but that affects creation. The world goes bad, things start going wrong in the world. There's an imbalance in creation due to human corruption, moral corruption. And the opposite as well, that when people doing the right thing, so then the world aligns itself with that rightness and that goodness and does the right thing. Noah was good. There were animals that were good and behaved, and they came to him. That was his part of the world. This, the Meshiloach is saying, is this is what happened at creation. At creation, the world itself called out and said, we need meaning, we need a savior, we need a being who will connect us, who will give us purpose and meaning. So God said, okay, so let us make man. All of you have to contribute to the creation of man. So the human being has a part of you in him. There's a part of you that's reflected in the human being. And so when a human does good, there's a part of you that's doing good, that you're being included in that, in that goodness. And so who was God speaking to when he said, let us make man? The entire creation. All of creation was being included in that. We together make man. The entire creation. And there's a part of it in us. And therefore he says, when we want to do the right thing, the world will help us. That's what he says in the conclusion here. Just like Noah. Noah was a righteous person doing the right thing. So the plants and the animals, they gravitated to him naturally. They just came to him. So too, when we are doing the right thing, we're doing what the world is asking us to do. And so the world will respond positively to that. It will help us. Nature itself will align itself with us when we are doing right, when we're doing good, when we're fulfilling our purpose. Because nature contributed into our creation. Once is cheering us on, wants us to do the right thing. So when we're doing good, the world aligns and we are where we're supposed to be. When we're doing the wrong thing, on the other hand, the world wants to stay away from us. Nature doesn't align. It doesn't mean that everyone who does the right thing, their life is easy, and everyone does the wrong thing, their life is different. It doesn't mean that. But it means that innately in the very fiber of creation, when you are doing the right thing, you're in the right place. Might be hard, not always easy, but you're where you're meant to be. When you're doing the wrong thing, you're where you're not supposed to be. The world is not agreeing with you. Very profound idea there from the Meshileach. I want to share one more concept. Going back to another midrash, Bereshit Rabbah, the same midrash, number 6 there. It says that when Moses was writing the Torah and writing what was created on each day, so creation happened at a certain time, but the Torah was only written down after Moses at Mount Sinai started receiving the Torah. It was dictated. God said, write this down. So Moses was writing down as God was dictating. So as he's writing the creation of the world, the beginning of the Torah, when he reached this verse and God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, so Moses said before him, Master of the universe, why do you provide the heretics with basis for a claim? This is bewildering. Like, how can you write let us in the plural? Here, Moses says, here we are trying to show the world that there's only one God. All these pagan religions that believe in a whole panoply of families of gods. No, there's only one God who created all of us. And that's essential to the message of the Torah. If there's many gods, then there's many moralities. And there's options. And you can go this way, you can go that way. And like there's no one right or wrong. When there's one God, there's one morality, there's one goodness. We're all created by the one God. We all under the one God. It's essential to morality to say there's one God. So this is what we're trying to argue. And now in your Torah, you're saying that the human being, let us make man. The man was created in plural, let us make man. You're opening up to heretics, to the non-believers, to all the other believers that there's many gods. You see, in the Torah it says, let us make man. There's more than one. How can you say that? So Moses is questioning God as he's writing the Torah. And God's answer, he said to him, just right. And if someone wants to err, let him err. Someone wants to make a mistake, they can make a mistake. You want to misinterpret it, you can go misinterpret it. The meaning of let us make man, okay, we've seen other meanings that let us is talking to the angels, talking to the whole world. There's an explanation to it. And the next verse says, and God, singular, created man. It's very clear that only God created man in the singular. But God says, you want to make a mistake? Someone wants to make a mistake? Let them make a mistake. That's fine, they can make a mistake. Which is like that's an interesting answer. That God says, okay, we can write something that's ambiguous. It can be misinterpreted. That's fine. I'm not changing the wording to avoid somebody misinterpreting. Let them misinterpret. Really? And misinterpret means that there's more than one God, and therefore there's lots of moralities and there's lots of right and wrong, and it's all relative. And you're allowing that. God, you're allowing that. And where are you allowing that? In the description of the creation of the human being, which is like a very important point in the Torah. And you're allowing the openness, the ability to misinterpret that, and not just misinterpret that you got it wrong, you misunderstood it, misinterpret it to be the exact opposite of the entire foundation of the Torah, which is there's one God who created us all. You're allowing that? And God says, yeah, that's fine. Moses can't believe it. And God says, yeah, let them make a mistake. So here, listen to this very profound answer that the Rebbe provides. The Rebbe in one of his talks on Hanukkah in the year 1977, the Rebbe said the reason why creation of man was expressed as let us, plural, and if someone wants to err, let him err, God says, is because to have free choice, you must be able to err. By the creation of man being in the plural language and man transforming the world to be singular under the one God, this fulfills the divine purpose in creation, to make a home for godliness in the lowest possible place. In this like 2 lines, the Rebbe here introduces a very, very deep idea. The very creation of the human being is couched in terminology that can be misinterpreted, that is open to misunderstanding, a misunderstanding that can cause the exact opposite of faith of what is meant to be. And says the Rebbe, and that was intentional, because the human being's very foundation is free choice. Is you can look at things 2 different ways. You could look at things as it's supposed to say, which is that God created us. Yeah, he introduced the angels, whatever it is, but God created us. Or you can misinterpret that, no, there's lots of gods. It's all relative. There's lots of different opinions. There's lots of different right and wrong. There's no absolutes. You could deny and go exactly against it. The ability to deny God, to deny faith, is essential to free choice. And free choice is essential to the human mission. Therefore, the human being was created with words that can be misinterpreted, can be mistakenly understood, can be taken out of what their true meaning is. And God left it that way. He made it that way intentionally, because we, at our core, have to have freedom. We have to choose to interpret it right, to see the truth, to see it correctly. And to have the choice means you could see it incorrectly. And you can justify it. Yeah, there's many gods. You see what the Rebbe here is doing is he's saying that this account of creation is not just words, it is creation. The words that are chosen to describe the creation is how we were created. We were created by words, Nase Adam, let us make man, that you could explain it beautifully, as we have in several different ways, that is in total in fitting with monotheism and with truth and with how we're supposed to look at things, or you can misinterpret it the wrong way. That's up to you. You have free choice. Because free choice is essential to the human being. Because if we don't have free choice, we're puppets. We're machines, we're robots. And our life is meaningless. We have to be able to go this way or that way. We have to be able to accept God or deny him. It's a core of our being is that free choice. So therefore we were created with words that you could look at either way. And God says, people want to make a mistake, let them go and make a mistake. That's their choice. I have to give them that choice. And this, says the Rebbe, allows us to fulfill the ultimate purpose in creation. Our purpose in creation is to transcend that mistaken interpretation, to transcend the idea that there's multiplicity, there's many gods, there's many forces, there's only one, to overcome that and see that there's only one, to bring oneness into the world. And that brings God into the lowly place, into a world where you can deny him and we choose to recognize him. The human being who could go the exact opposite way, we could live a life completely ignoring God and living by our own rules without any morality whatsoever, in a total selfish and hedonistic way. We could choose that. And we choose not to do that. We choose to live a meaningful, purposeful, elevated life. That is fulfilling the purpose of creation. And so therefore we were created with that word. And in a way, what the Rebbe here is saying is what is often quoted in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that Nas Adam, let us make man, is God speaking to us and saying, you and I together have to make you. I'm giving you free choice. You have free choice. I'm creating you, but I'm creating in a way that you can do what you choose. So you and I together have to make man. We have to make you together. I'm giving you all opportunities, all the abilities. I'm giving you the total free choice to take it as you wish. I'm not controlling your life. You're not a puppet. How you choose to live is your choice. So to conclude, we saw several "let us make man" interpretations. We began with Rashi, who said that this is God's humility, that he's consulting with the angels. And we understood, well, what is this consulting with the angels? From the Midrash said, well, there was this conference, and some angels said yes, some said no, some were for creation, some were against it. Which Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen explained, what that was doing is actually God bringing the angelic forces into the creation of man to contribute to him, because we have all of those forces in us. We have forces that are positive and life affirming, and we have forces that are negative and self-destructive. But God created us with that because he wants us. He wants us to exist and overcome the negative and affirm the positive. We saw the Moshe Loyach, who said that "let us make man" was talking to all of creation, because our mission is to elevate all of creation. The world was waiting for us, needs us, is yearning for us to elevate it. The entire world is there to help us to fulfill our purpose, because we are there to elevate it and to bring the world to its higher place. So the entire world is waiting for us. And then we saw this final Midrash that said that God created us, Nas and Adam, in a way that you could misinterpret. I think there's lots of plural. There's many gods creating us. And he created us that way because we need to have free choice. Our very core, our very essence, we're created with the idea of free choice, that our destiny is in our hands. We choose. And so "let us make man" is God saying, I'm creating you, but you got to finish the job. We're going to do this together.
So, qualities of kindness, truth, righteousness, and peace, they govern our choices. Are they integral in how we make our choice?
Well, yeah, for sure. There's these are all positive attributes.
Are they? Two may be chesed, two may be Kabbalah.
Well, yeah, but positive. I mean, meaning good, not evil. But yeah, some are expressive and some are self-controlling. You know, so kindness is expressive, but truth is sticking to the borders and the boundaries. So yeah. These are the forces that we need to channel to express our moral purpose. Any questions, comments?
We talked about man is the lowest, is the highest, and by consuming minerals and plants and nutrition and water and apples, it becomes elevated. We elevate that and we use it to do mitzvahs and things. Is that also, and that ties them to Hashem, oneness. Does that also mean the other way around, where our mitzvahs ties the divine force, the forces of truth and kindness here into here? It's like tethers those into here and elevates them in that sense. Are these angels and forces elevated?
Yes, yeah. The angels are also elevated by us, because the angels, the angel of kindness, let's say, well, that's a beautiful force of kindness, but until that's expressed down here, it's a theoretical thing. It's abstract. We give legs to the force of kindness. So, for example, it says in one of the Kabbalistic books called the Sefer Bahir, it says that Abraham, when he was alive, the attribute of kindness said, I'm unemployed. I got nothing to do. Abraham, he was such an embodiment of kindness. He said, what do you need me for? In other words, the kindness down here in this world, that is the ultimate kindness, and being kindness up in heaven doesn't do anything until we do it. So we elevate not just the physical world, but also the spiritual realms, including the angels, are elevated by us and are reliant on us. But of course, when we do the wrong thing, we drag down all of creation, which is why kindness said create us, but truth said don't. And, so that's our choice.
We could also get power to evil from the negative forces. And
Correct. Correct. Okay. Thank you.